So I think you got the point that what I have written over here. There were few people asking questions. First of all, I'll just address all those questions. How about exception handling here? Pramod was asking what if some error comes up. Pramod, I'll talk about exception handling, but not right now. Okay, I'll talk about it later. I really don't want to confuse people out there, right? And secondly, WebDriver D equals to null. Why is D null? This thing. Well, null means nothing. Initially, I have said that fine, my driver will not point anywhere, right? That's why I have kept it equated to null. Alright. Okay, somebody's pinging me, right? Hello. So this is the reason. Right? Any questions from anybody else? Nothing? Nothing. Okay. Alright. So now let's move further on. Now once I am opening up a browser, right? I'm navigating to a particular website. Fine. Now how do I work on that site? If I have to click on a link or something, right? So hold on, sorry. Yeah. If I have to click on a link or if I have to click on a button or if I have to somewhere in the text field, right? How do I do that? How do I interact with the elements of a web page? That's the question. Fine. Now, first of all, to understand, right, to understand how Selenium works and how Selenium behaves, you need to understand the HTML language, right? If you go to any website, for example, I will go to the website cnn.com. Hold on. So if I go to any website, to users, to us, we look at the user interface and we click on based on the user interface. But Selenium works differently. It works on the page source, right? If you right click on any page, you will get the page source. And if you look at the page, you'll get a source like this. Okay. Now this is the HTML page source. Now in HTML language, you need to understand this HTML language. In HTML language, there are tags and attributes. There are two major things, tags and attributes. Whatever starts with the conical bracket is the tag name. For example, this is a tag. This div tag closes over here. It closes with a slash mark like this. This is a style tag. This tag closes out here. And between that tag, there is some information. This is an li tag. It closes over here. This is an attribute of li tag. This class is technically known as an attribute of the tag. Right? Similarly, this is a div tag and id is the attribute. Okay. So there can be a tag and there can be multiple attributes associated with the tag. For example, just hold on. Yeah. This is a div tag. This div tag has got attributes such as class, id, style associated with it. This div tag out here has got attributes id and class associated with it. So there in HTML it's nothing, it's a set of attributes and tags with which you actually go forward and identify the objects. It's not very tough, but it's not not everybody is familiar with it. Okay, we never look at web pages like this. Being testers, we will be looking at the web pages like this to identify the objects. So you have to get familiar with it. Once you get familiar with it, it will be not a problem. Okay, initially it becomes difficult for people to understand this language, but later on it becomes easy. Right? There are tools. There are tools available in the market which can help you analyze the web pages. For example, if you go to cnn.com on Chrome, in Chrome you have got an inbuilt Chrome inspector with which you can analyze the web page. If you right click on any element, for example, I right click over Asia, this Asia is there in the top right, okay, hold on, somebody ping me. This Asia is on the top. You right click on this and you select inspect element. Now this is an internal feature in Chrome which is available to us. Element and you will get I'm sorry you will get the element highlighted over here. It's a link. Okay. Now in Mozilla you have to install something known as Firebug, which I already have installed. But in Mozilla, it's better that you install Firebug. I'll tell you how. Firebug is an add-on on Mozilla. You just have to go to Google and simply type over here Firefox Firebug. Okay. You'll get the first link, add-ons for Firefox. You click on that link and you will be taken to the Mozilla website. Over here, you can select the option Add to Firefox, and this will be added. Your Firefox will be restarted. Fine. And when it restarts, you will see a bug on the top right corner over here. This is technically known as Firebug, right? And if you click on this, a window like this will open up. Hold on, I'll just increase the font size. Just hold on. Right. Now in this Firebug over here, you will have a small arrow. If you click on this arrow and move your mouse over the page, you will see in HTML tab, you will see the code of that particular object. For example, this register link on the top. If I move my mouse over it, you will see the register link. It will show you in the page. So you really don't need to go to the page source, and you don't need to analyze it. If you want anything on the page, for example, I want to search this text field in the page source, you can directly search this text field out here. Hold on. Right. Okay. Fine. Now, when we work with Selenium, we always use Firebug and we analyze the page components with the help of Firebug. Right. Before we move further, and I actually tell you how do we analyze the page components and all the stuff, right? I need to tell you one thing. I need to make you more familiar with HTML, right? Rather, I would advise you something in your spare time. Just go to an HTML tutorial and give half an hour to it. This will save a lot of your time in Selenium. Just go to this website W3 Schools and just read about these topics. I think this much will be more than enough. Just read about them. There is a try it yourself link as well. It's a very good website. Okay, so I will give you this. hold on, this link. Now I will come over. I'll come over to HTML first, and then I will come over to Selenium, because to make you understand how Selenium understands the page and objects, firstly we need to understand the HTML representation of the objects. So I'll create a new Excel file over here, which I generally do in all the batches. Objects.xls. Right now over here, I told you that in HTML there are tags and attributes, nothing else, right? So I'll make columns: component, tag name, mandatory attribute, and optional attribute. Now in attributes there are some mandatory and optional attributes. Okay, so just hold on. I'll just increase the font size. Yeah, that's okay. Now what all components you have on a web page? You have got input fields, you have got buttons, you have got checkbox, you have got radio buttons, you have got links, you have got images, right? Then you have normal text on the page. Normal text is also there. Anything else which I am missing? Yeah, submit button comes under button only. Okay, right? Then there are few things which are invisible to the eye. For example, web table, which I will not discuss right now, or frames, right? Yeah, a select box is also there, or technically a drop down. Right? So these things are not visible to the human eye, but still they are there on the web page. Okay, pop-up is a window, Arun. Pop-up is a window. It's not a web component. It's a separate window, right? So generally these are the components with which we generally interact on a web page. Okay, now if you analyze, for example, I go to the page Gmail, and I go to the generic login page of Gmail. Fine. And if I use Firebug on this page, okay, and if I look at this checkbox, then you can see that the checkbox is having the tag name as input. It's got an attribute ID, it's got an attribute type, it's got an attribute value, right? So basically the tag name for a checkbox is input. Fine. If you look at this button sign in is a button. The tag name for the button is again input. Okay. If you look at the input field in which you write in your email ID or password, whatever you have to write, if you analyze that field, then the tag name for that field is again input. And from my experience, I know that the tag name for radio button is also input. So you might be confused what is happening. I'll tell you, hold on. If you look at a link, for example, there is a link over here known as need help. Just a minute. Somebody is asking. Okay. I'm sorry. If you look at this link, need help, then this link is having a tag name as A. Okay. Then all the links on all the web pages rather have the tag name as A. It's known as the anchor tag. Alright. If you talk about images, say this Google on the top which is written is actually is an image. If I analyze this, then the tag name for this is image, img. Okay. For an image, the tag name is img. Right. A text, which is a normal text on the page, like sign in to continue to Gmail. This is a text and all. You cannot categorize text into a generic tag. Generally, it is under division or it is under a para tag or it is under sometimes you really cannot judge, right? It can be any tag name. Okay, there is no generic tag for division div, right? For a drop list, if you for example, where is the topic? For example, if I go to the website timesofindia.com, if you look at this select field drop list over here, for a drop list the tag name is select. For every drop list on every web page, the tag name will be select. So these are the tag names of the generic components which are present on a web page. Now each of these components has got a tag name, and there will be mandatory set of attributes which will be there with every component. For example, when we talk about input field, right? When we talk about input field, say on timesofindia.com, this is the input field, right? Out here I can type in anything. If I analyze this input field, then you will see that, as I told you, the tag name will be input, but you will always find an attribute known as type equated to text, which will always be present with an input field. So if there is a tag name input and corresponding to it or with it there is an attribute type equals to text, then it becomes an input field. If for a button, right, say for the button of Gmail page only, hold on, for a button you will always find that the type attribute is equated to submit. This is a mandatory attribute. This will always be present with all the buttons. Okay. For checkboxes, I'll tell you directly the type attribute is equal to checkbox. And for a radio button, the type is equal to radio. So, if there is a tag name input, and if the input tag name is having the type as say submit, then it becomes a button. If the input tag name has got type as radio, then it becomes a radio button. So it depends. The tag name for all these 4 components are same, but the mandatory attributes are different. In case of a link, for example, the link need help over here. All the links will always have an attribute known as href. This attribute will always be there with all the links, and this will always point towards the URL which will open up when you click on that particular link. For example, in this case, this is the URL which opens up when you click on need help. So in case of link, href attribute is there which points towards the URL which will open when you click on the link. In case of image, this Google image is there, right? There will be an attribute known as src. This is a mandatory attribute. src. Dhananjay, I have maximized my screen. You can double click on your screen. It will maximize to the optimum size. Okay. Out here we have a source attribute src, right, which actually points to the URL which will open up when you click on the the URL from which the image is getting loaded. If I copy this URL and if I open up this URL in the browser, you will see the Google image coming up over here. So this is actually the source attribute which tells the place where the image is coming from. This is a mandatory attribute. For text, there is no mandatory attribute as such, right? For a drop down as well, there is no mandatory attribute. Only the tag name is there, select. That's it. Okay. And optional attributes. Generally, there are 3 attributes which are always present, not always present, they are generally present. Attributes: ID, name, class. These are the optional attributes and they can be present with any one of them. Okay, they can be or they cannot be, depends, right? ID or name, they generally uniquely identify the object. If some component on the page, okay, it's having an ID, or if a certain component on the page, if it's having a name, then that is 99.99% of the times that is unique and that can be used to identify it. But if it is not having an ID or a name, then we have to look in for some other mechanism. Okay, for example, in the Gmail page, if you look at the Gmail guys are good. If you look at the email field, the email field has got an attribute name as well as ID. So you can use this because this is unique to identify the email field and type something into it with the help of Selenium. Okay, now I'll tell you how to do that. Right? Any question with this? Any question? Oh, okay. So now moving further on. I'll make, or rather let's use this class only. I write driver.get to gmail.com. Go to the website gmail.com. right? And after going there, you have to enter your username, that is your email ID, in the input field, right? Hold on. Yeah, this is the input field. Okay. Now, how do you ask Selenium to identify the object? If you look at the documentation of Selenium, you go to the website, you go to download section and you go to the Java documentation. Alright, you go here and open the WebDriver interface. I just talked about interfaces before the break. Yeah, this is the WebDriver interface, right? And in this, you have a function find elements, or find element first, sorry. Find element function can be used to find a particular element on the page, and it returns you web element reference. What is web element? Technically, don't confuse it with web element of QTP if you know QTP, right? That is different. Okay, in Selenium, web element is a generic page component. All these things, input fields, buttons, checkboxes, radio buttons, all these fields are nothing but they are technically known as web element. Okay, any component present on the page is a web element for Selenium. Okay, if you look at this interface web element, then it's got some generic functions which you can perform on an element. For example, clear, click, right? Then say get location, get text, is displayed, is enabled, right? There are some basic generic components. So in our code, if I write d dot find element, this will return you the reference of web element, say web element user name equals to d dot find element. How do I find element? To find element on the page, you have a class by. This by class yeah, this is the by class. If you look at this by class, then it's got various locator strategies, like by the ID of the element, by the link text, right? Hold on. Yeah, by the name, by the partial link text, by the tag name, by the Xpath. What is Xpath? By the CSS selector. I'll talk about these things. I just hold on, right? So you have got various locator mechanisms. So by class is actually presenting you mechanism to use to locate the elements. When you write over here by dot, you get all the mechanisms which are available in Selenium to locate the element. Okay. Now, luckily for Gmail page, like why I'm taking Gmail example because it's simple, right? In Gmail, we have the ID for every component. Okay, in Gmail, if you look at Gmail page, you have the ID of the email field. The ID of the email field is ID. So you write over here driver.find element by the ID email, you find the username field, and then you get the web element username. In this username field, you can perform various actions. If you have to type in something, the command is .send keys. So I'll type in, say, my name Ashish. So this will go forward and type in my name in the username field. If I okay. Hold on. This will not work. Okay, it went to that page. It went directly to that page. I never had to click anywhere else. Anyways, it works. So it's directly typing. You see that? It's directly typing Ashish out here in the username field. And the interesting thing is that I analyzed the web in Mozilla and I executed the code on Chrome and it worked. This is because the basic, browser is different, but the page source will remain same, right? The objects will remain same. This HTML page source remains same across the browsers. Okay, so if the ID is email in Mozilla, it will remain same in Chrome as well. So that's why I was able to execute this piece of code on Chrome. Right. Similarly, I can write over here web element password equals to driver.find element, and if you look at the password field, you'll get the ID of the password field, and you write over here by the ID of the password field. So this will find the password field, and then in the password field you can send your password. So this will go, if you run this will open the browser and it will enter the username and password in the Gmail page. You see that? Right? Okay. So there's a question being asked, why do you need a new reference when you can use the same ID reference to login? Hold on, I'll come over to this one now. I'm just talking about this. Now you see that to interact with one web component, I am writing 2 lines. Okay, there is no need to do that. I'll comment it out. Okay, you can write it in 1 line as well. If I write over here driver.find element by the ID email, this will return me web element username, and I can directly write over here .send keys Ashish. So the execution starts from the left side. First it finds the element with the ID email, right? So this highlighted portion becomes my web element, and then I directly write .send keys Ashish into it, right? Okay, so I don't need to write 2 lines like this. Similarly, driver.find element by the password .send keys some password. Okay, so I just used ID over here to locate the objects. Okay. There are various other mechanisms as well. By ID, by link text, you can directly supply the link text. By the name, you can take the name from here. In Gmail, you have the name for objects. Okay, you can take the name, or you can take the Xpath. Now, what is Xpath? Xpath is like the address of the element. right? For example, you have how do I say it? Just a minute. Just give me 1 minute. Yeah. Okay, fine. So if I look at the page source, if you look at the page source, can you please explain? Just a minute. There's a question being asked. Web element username is private. Okay, I'll explain this line. Look, when you write driver.find element, if people are not clear with this line, I'm just coming over to it. Then I'll come over to Xpath. When you write driver.find element, okay, it will go and search for the element on the page by the criteria you look at. And find element function internally returns you the reference of the web element interface. If you look at the WebDriver interface in the documentation, if you look at the WebDriver interface, in WebDriver interface there is a function find element. This function returns you the web element interface reference. This is internal. This is how it is made. So when you write driver.find element, it finds the element and it returns you the reference of web element interface. Web element interface has got lot of functions, lot of generic functions which can be performed on element. Say click is displayed or something. I use the function send keys. This function is used to simulate typing into an element. You got it, Shakti? Okay, right. Now I had come over to something known as Xpath. I was talking about Xpath. Now, using ID, it's very simple to identify an object. Xpath is like the physical address of the object on the page. Fine. For example, just a minute. This is Firebug, right? If you look at it, if you look at the page in Firebug, just 1 minute. It's not coming up. Anyways, if you look at the page, so everything starts from the HTML tag in the page. Under HTML tag, there is a head tag and there is a body tag, right? If you expand body tag, then there is a div tag. So I can make a path. I can make a path like this. There is an HTML tag, then there is a body tag, then there is a div tag, and I can keep on going till the time I have reached the input tag, which is represented by this email field. So I'm traversing from the base of the document to the element which I want to find out. So I'm pinpointing the element like this. So this is how the XPath is formed. If you look at the page source, then you see that all these tags can be traversed, right? Right. Probably there is some other div tag in between or something like that, right? Till the time I reach the input tag. Okay. So this is an XPath. This type of XPath is known as the complete or absolute XPath. We can use this kind of XPath to identify the object. There is no need to manually make such an XPath. You can install Firepath on the top of Firebug. Okay, you just have to go to Google, make sure Firebug is installed. Firepath is another add-on on top of Firebug. Okay, you just have to download Firepath and you have to install it as an add-on in Mozilla. Make sure Firebug is already installed. As soon as you install Firepath, you will see Firepath option here inside Firebug. You select the option over here, generate absolute XPath, click on the drop down over here, and then suppose if I move if I move my mouse over the email field, I'll get this particular XPath. Right? So this is the absolute XPath. This means that there's a HTML tag inside it, there's a body tag, 10 division, 10 division, until the time you reach the input tag. Now what are these numbers? Right? If you look at the page structure, okay, hold on. If you look at the HTML page, then it says that it is an HTML tag, inside it there's a body tag. In body tag, there are lot of tags. Okay, it is saying that go inside the first division tag, div 1. Inside the first division tag, you have got 3 division tags. Okay, these are the 3 division tags inside the first division tag. Out here it is, so it is div 2 means that you have to go inside the second division tag, and so on so forth. Keep on going and you'll reach the input box which you are interested in. Okay, this is how complete XPath is made, but this is not a very good way. This is not a very good XPath. I'm sorry. Because it starts from the base of the document. If tomorrow developer adds some new tag in between, then your code will go for a toss. You'll have to change all the XPaths. All the XPaths of the page will change. Okay, so it becomes really tough. We use this kind of XPath only when it is very urgent. Okay, so don't use this kind of XPath generally. What kind of XPath we use? We use something known as partial XPath. It is formed like in Firepath only. You select that, don't generate the absolute XPath, and suppose if I look at the email field, then this is the partial XPath. Yeah, it's good. It's quite good, Vishal. This is the partial XPath. /* hold on. What does this mean? This means any component on the page. Okay, if I write /input, what kind of XPath is this? This means all the input tags, the components with the input tags on the page. If I'm writing /* @ID equals to email, that means any component on the page whose ID is email. Fine, so this is how partial XPath means. So that means it is basically pointing towards this input box which is having the ID email. Or to be more specific, you can write /input whose ID is email. So this is a partial XPath. Now this looks better. Obviously this looks 100 times better than what we had seen on the top. If something changes at the base of the document, at least it will not affect this Xpath, right? So in my code, I can also write over here, instead of writing this, I can write driver.find element, instead of ID now, by the Xpath, this Xpath dot send keys, anything. You can also find the Xpath in Chrome. Okay, in Chrome, suppose I'm on any page and I again sorry, and I again look at the Asia link on the top. I select inspect element, and this is the element. In Chrome, you have to right click and select inspect element. The element gets highlighted. On the element, you right click and you get the option copy Xpath. Okay, you copy the Xpath and Chrome will give you the Xpath out here. This is the Xpath. Put single quotes, that's it. Just make that change. Okay, right. I'll talk about this. I'll continue talking about Xpath in my next class. It's a huge topic. It's a vast topic. Just given you an introduction, right? I'll stop here. I think it's too much for everyone.